Hi, everyone. I'm Dee. I'm the co-founder of We, as you've heard. I put this panel together for both personal and professional reasons. Personal because I just had a baby, and I'm certainly trying to figure out how to balance everything, and how to balance having a child and having a career. Professionally, I think that there's a lot that we can discuss. You've heard from earlier discussions that there is a disparity between the number of women who enter the workforce and those who are in leadership positions. And we talked about, one contributing factor being that women leave the workforce to have children and don't go back because they don't have the support structures that they need. So we're really talking to these women about how they balance running businesses, being entrepreneurs, with their sort of busy lives. And it's not just about being mothers, but just being sort of busy women who have a lot to juggle. So hopefully there's a lot that we can all learn, whether we're mothers, whether we're not mothers. So if I can bring the whole panel up, and then I'll sort of introduce them. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Dee's baby is in the audience right back there. There he is.
Adorable
I think he needs to spit up right now so that we all feel we all get the drift. On you while you're talking.
Okay, so I'm going to start in the order that I have here. So Carley Roney, in the fabulous blue dress, is the co-founder and editor-in-chief of XO Group, which is a global media and technology company devoted to weddings, pregnancy, and everything in between. So she founded the Wedding Network, which is the #1 online wedding site. And she also launched The Nest and The Bump, both are brands for young couples and first-time parents. Next, sitting right next to me, is Alisa Volkman. Alisa is the co-founder of Babbel. And Babbel is a parenting site and blogging platform for this generation's parents. She was also VP of Sales and Marketing at Nerve, which is a very different... it's what leads you to be, yeah, it's where you go before Babbel. Sitting next to her is Mary Alice Stephenson, who is a fashion and beauty expert. She has served as fashion director and editor for top fashion magazines, such as Vogue, Allure, Marie Claire, and Harper's Bazaar, and she styled many of Hollywood's biggest stars. And last but not least, and because she has the most fabulous title, is Nancy Lublin. And Nancy Lublin is CEO and Chief Old Person at Do Something. And she was also the founder of Dress for Success, which Joy Gordon had referred to earlier. So Do Something is one of the largest youth organizations in America, with more than 2.2 million teens participating in its campaigns. That's my panel. A round of applause for them. So I don't know if you've all... We had Anne-Marie Slaughter here yesterday, and I don't want to put you on the spot, I should have asked earlier, but have you all read that piece about having it all? So
we're too busy to read.
I mean, so she was basically, a very successful career woman who penned a piece for The Atlantic where she basically described a very difficult experience of having 2 children and also having a very incredibly sort of busy professional life. And she felt that it was very difficult for women in this day and age to have it all. And I was curious to know, for those that have read it, or just generally, what you feel about that particular story, given that you're all very sort of busy professional mothers.
What really resonated for me with the article was the societal problem I think we're facing right now of how do we manage everything that's on our plate. I do think in many ways we've come very far as women, which is fantastic. But at the same time, I think we've doubled our workload, I think, as a result. So I obviously really struggle with how to manage it all and just how to get through those days. And I think, pushing for more flexibility in the workplace, I think, is a great place to start. So it's something what I kind of took from the article.
After I read it, I thought it was, really amazing to just sort of watch this woman's struggle on paper really be the same as the one that I was experiencing. So many of my friends were. My real problem with it now is it has been summarized. I think the bumper sticker version is, can you really have it all? And the answer is no. That's sort of like what it's become in its shortest form, and it was really so much more complicated than that, which is why I think it's important to keep that discussion going, because ultimately it kind of while that was her answer, it really kind of, I think, put us all in a difficult position where I think that when I talked about with a friend last night, she said, oh, and now we can feel guilty again, right? Because there was someone who's so important and was basically having it all, and then she said no, so here we are again. Shoot, we're the ones still sacrificing our children. So I think it put all of us sort of in a complicated place. You wanted her to actually say, that's my sick daughter texting me. See, you can't have it all. Anyway, that was what I found so interesting about it. I don't know if you got a chance to read it, but
yeah, I don't really care what anybody else thinks about my parenting. I don't really care what Sheryl Sandberg has to say about it. I don't really care what Anne-Marie Slaughter. You all are lovely, but my way that I juggle is mine. And I think as women, we need to back the hell off each other. And whatever works for you, works for you.
For example, I am approving a $2.99 purchase of Thundercats so that my daughter does not actually have to babysit her brothers any longer. Yes, that's okay.
And I deep conditioned my hair this morning with Rid and a red comb as I was going through my daughter's hair for lice and mine.
But I think the article...
Wait a minute, yeah. I've done that too. Actually,
now,
you know what? It leaves your hair
It's
really
great.
soft.
I know, it's like the best
light
conditioner
shampoo
out
is
there.
fantastic.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
also depends on how you define all. And I also think, you know what? God, it's so much fun to try to have it all on a positive note. Like, this is a really exciting time that we can try to balance it all. And it is one hell of a ride, and there's good days and there's bad days. But I know that anything that I want to do in my life, I'm going to try. And guess what? My son is going to be better for it because his mommy thinks big. And and you're 3 boys. And so I know I hear all this negativity, and I don't know if I can have it all. I'm trying, though, and ask me, on my deathbed, and then we'll have a conversation about it. But I do think that there's so much negativity. And like you said, it's a... Yeah.
But I think what was interesting about our article, though, is because I agree with all of you, but I think what she was also talking about is how is this being managed in the workplace? Because I think we're trying to do it all, and we have the guts to try and do it all. But I think a lot of work environments are restricting women and mothers in a way that's making it really difficult to accomplish, I think, the things you want. The other thing that bothered me about the article is I was like, do men have it all? I don't think so. Hopefully, if you get your husband to work, at home with the kids as well. I'd like to think that he'd rather be out somewhere else. But, I think that was another interesting thing.
It's also easier to have it all if you have money. I'm a single mom. So I have worked my butt off, but I have to also pay for not only my son, my nanny, my driver. When my mom comes in to help me when I go away, as I was in Miami and Chicago this week, it really does take a huge group of people, and I have to keep funding having it all, and that's exhausting. So I see a lot of women that seem to have it all, but they have someone else funding it all, and God bless them. I could use some help too if there's any men in there.
So for those of you who are running companies, what are the support structures you've put in place to help you run your businesses, and have a family?
All right, well, I'll start out. As I was outlining my network, one of the questions was, what's your support system? I thought it was going to be very short, and the list that kept going off the page. Obviously, and even though it isn't really in a business expense, my nanny, is really probably the most important person to actually create a support system for me. She's an extraordinary woman who is totally devoted to my children and is very flexible, and that's, I think, the secret there. But even inside the company, I would actually say my number 2 person. What's funny is I actually run my business with my husband, but he's not factoring into my list at all, the support system. Well, I'm sure, of course he is, but I think of it as outside of that because I feel like I have to kind of create my network. My assistant is actually a non-judgmental assistant who will cover for you whenever you need to be covered for, whether it's like, you're running out to buy tampons he's running out to buy tampons because of course you came to work knowing it was the day but forgetting to stop because you were late for XYZ reason, or who's covering, making excuses for you inside the company when you can't do something even though you're supposed to do. I think that's really critical. And then having really strong number 2s in every one of your areas who know the drill. who kind of know the role they play, and they know that they're going to have to. And it was very funny. There was an article, what was it in recently, about people's resentment about having to cover for the people in their work lives who have kids. Well, don't have anyone around you who's going to resent to have to cover for you, and make sure that you're covering for them at the same time. So you're kind of building your own support system with credit in the bank, I think.
I also think being human about it. I think that there in the past has been this just, culturally we've been told we had to say that everything's okay and we can do it all and we're perfect and we're da-da-da-da. But, when I'm human with my studio director who's sitting here right now, in the front row, and when I'm human with my employees and say, like, I'm having a hard day, I've got to go juggle this, do this, this, and human about it, and I let them see how it is tough sometimes. They are more inspired to help me, and I see them working even harder. And I think there is, men, that are CEOs tend to button up, right? And you don't ever show your personal life to people around you, and I've been in those environments. But as a woman, what's so beautiful is that we are able to be powerful and leaders and show our compassion and allow the people around us to know, like you said, that sometimes we need them, and all hell's breaking loose. And they don't have to know every reality, but it's helped me to get them to sometimes, they'll think what I might need as a mom, or getting somewhere intact before I will, because they've gone through it so many times, and I've allowed them to see that it's not all perfect all the time.
Here's one surprise. I mean, nannies, assistants, team, all of that, total agreement. My kid's school. So we just switched schools, and one of the reasons we switched schools is that the last school we were at had a lot of non-working moms, and they were on all the committees, and it was like, oh, Nancy, you haven't chaperoned a trip yet. Can you do this? Can you sign up for a few hours? I can't. Nope. So instead what I would do is for the auction, I would get like Justin Bieber to record your voicemail, and then all of a sudden I'd be like the cool mom, because I could deliver like the Jonas Brothers, which is fine. But we just switched schools, and actually we're actually at Avenues, which is awesome. It's all entrepreneurs. That was the big surprise. I think everybody thought that Avenues, which is a brand new for-profit school that's basically on the High Line, was going to be all like hedge fund finance people, and thank God it's not. It's all entrepreneurs, including all the moms are entrepreneurs, like the woman who founded Soul Cycle, Eleni from Eleni's Cookies, Daily Lit. Like, it's all entrepreneurs, and everybody is totally understanding, because it's not a not-for-profit, a private school. There is no school auction. There is no committee that I need to be on, so it's actually a school that I feel like is made for a working mom. So when you're thinking about picking a school, surprisingly, you actually want to pick a school that's working mom friendly. What is the culture and the expectation of those working moms? What are the hours? That seems silly, but at Avenues, they will do pickup and take my kid to an after-school program at Chelsea Piers. So my kid can be brought without having somebody to have to take them to sports after school. It can be delivered. So like little things like that actually matter a lot for working moms. So we're psyched about our new school.
That's great. Is there anything that you think that the corporate world should be doing, structurally to help working mothers in those organizations, based on your personal experiences?
Well, we started something recently at XO Group called the Ultimate Freedom Vacation Policy, which is literally that there's no defined time off. You can take as much time off as you need or want, as long as you can figure out how to either work with the network of people inside the company or your own, self, whenever you want to work. Because we really didn't want that. I had the freedom to never be panicked about not being at work. And I knew that actually was a critical piece of my being able to get up in the morning and be balancing these things. And a lot of the women in my company are moms, and that was I felt like that was the best gift I could give them. If your kid's sick, you're home. There's no question. You just are home. You're not looking at some sick day list, because I know that that ultimately it balances out, that they put 10 times more time in after hours, on the weekends, that we will make up for it because because I'm hired those right people. And I think, I don't know, to us that was, and no one abuses the policy. Everyone, people have to work. You have to get the approval of your peers, not of your boss. So it makes it that it's much easier to ask your boss for time off than it is actually to ask your peers who are actually going to be covering for you. And so it's created a really good support system among working mothers and even their support staff. And so anyway, that's a policy that we thought was a way to kind of provide that flexibility without making it like work flex, time.
I want your assistant and your vacation policy.
My assistant buys all my clothes for me too. He's the best.
Dee, I don't know if you're experiencing this because you've got a 6-week-old, but one thing we could do to help all working moms is spread an ethos that boobs are food. Yes. And the discomfort with breastfeeding that still is perpetuated in a lot of workplaces and just all over the place. I mean, for most of my life, thought of these as the greatest accessory I will ever own, and that every shirt was how do the boobs look, and everything was I'm going to dress them up and take them out on a Saturday night. And now, and then when you have a child, you realize they're actually just a food source, and they're awesome. Like it's amazing what they can do. And we need workplaces to be more comfortable with that. Restaurants, other women. I used to be the girl at camp who would like shower with a bathing suit on, but after having kids, I'm comfortable whipping out a boob in like a Starbucks. And I think we need people to be comfortable with that. I think that would really actually. I don't know if you're experienced. You were 6-week-old. I mean, I don't know if you're in the middle of it, right?
I was going to say you should bring that baby up and breastfeed him
Exactly,
right now. That's right.
Yeah, I don't think I'll go that far, but certainly, I've been juggling that one.
It also depends on what business you're in. If it's more buttoned up, I mean, I was shooting a British Vogue cover, and I remember when I learned that I could double pump because it would save time. So I was behind the cyc, and the model was out on the cyc, and I was like shooting with this photographer Regan Cameron. He's like, I'm back there. I'm like, I'll be right out. Hold on. And then he came and peeped around the corner, and he's like, oh my God, that is so cool. Get the cameras. Come over here right now. And I think that if you're in a creative field, it's much easier to, go there. But if you're a doctor, a lawyer, if you're in a corporate, an investment banker, I know in the finance world, it's really tough for a lot of my friends. It's much,
Yeah. I think we were talking about it as well before the panel about maternity leave policies, which I think in the U.S. is just criminal. I think it's 6 weeks right now paid. And I think that's just really, really...
Yeah, it's terrible. And I mean, in the UK, it's 36 weeks, I think. And yeah, it's definitely, it's at least that, perhaps more, actually, because I know that there is... Yeah, obviously, everyone should move. You should all move to London and have babies. So what about business relationships and how you deal with those when you have kids or actually when you're pregnant? So when I was pregnant, I had a meeting with Nancy where, which was great because, I felt comfortable sort of going in sort of happily pregnant. But actually, for a lot of meetings, I would do my best to disguise it. So I'd sort of put, jackets on and, and I think they just assumed I was eating too much pasta. I don't know what it was. But how would you sort of deal with business relationships? And because I think that there's an assumption that if you have kids or if you're pregnant, that you're not going to be as productive. So, have you come across anything that sort of perpetuates that, and how have you dealt with it?
Well, I would say not to. I mean, I believe these things should be used to your advantage when you can, but I don't think also you should wear them on your sleeve on some level. Like, when it's not a factor, it should not be treated as a factor. Like, I don't think you need to sort of politicize it in the instance. I'll give you an example. When we were going for our second round of financing, I had just had a baby. I didn't even tell the first investors that my husband and I were married, because that's like you think having a baby is a problem, being married to your co-founder, it's like big X, skull and crossbones next to your name. But then the second round, we were going out and we had just had a baby, and not only did I not want them to know, as I said, that I was married, but I didn't want them to know. And so they would do these drop-by visits at our office. And I had the baby in the office for the first 6 weeks. It's the only way we had, we were 6 months into our company. And I would, do as best as I can to suddenly, instantly hide the baby in the photographer's studio next door. I'd be like, hey, I know you have a celebrity in there, but can you take my kid? And because I didn't want it to be a factor in their decision-making process. And I didn't want to I didn't, I really did not want, because it isn't. It isn't. So why make it one? Years later, of course, and it was a woman, a venture capitalist, which is even double, like the fact that I was so worried that she would find out that I had a kid is kind of sick on a whole nother level. But she told me years later that, in fact, she does worry about it. At the time, she did know, because I guess I had left like a baby bottle sitting like on a shelf one day when she came in. She's like, I knew the whole time. But I think it is important to, like, keep it as much out of view of the people who you believe it will be a problem for. Like, I think that you have to use it. And for the people who not, like in China, where we're doing business right now, they love people with children. They love to have children. Like, one of the questions was, do you bring children involved in your business meeting? It's like, right, as long as no, I'm actually like a total star because I have 3.
But is it a problem, though, because I've experienced what you have too, but is it a problem that we feel that we're trying to hide the fact that we have children, we're trying to hide the fact we're pregnant? I mean, I've had the same, Rufus and I are co-founders of our company and have been running it together. So we've experienced the same things you have. But as a startup, when I was pregnant and delivering my child, I was driving the revenue for our company at the time and didn't want to tell a lot of the clients we were working with that I was pregnant. And then when I was having the baby in the hospital, I was still taking conference calls. I didn't have an auto reply. They had no idea I was having a baby, which I was ashamed about. I mean, it was terrible, but that I felt that I had to hide that because I thought it would possibly affect our business or something closing, some sort of partnership we were putting together. So I think that's been hard, but at the same time, the fact that we've started a parenting site has also worked to my benefit because when we are now meeting with brands, I am the target consumer. So it's great to actually share the fact that I have children and or I was pregnant. So I would either really expose that I was pregnant because it helped or I would be hiding it.
But the reality is it is a little bit of an issue. Like, when you have a baby, you are you drop off, as much as you tried it, you're kind of, and I have a lot of people work for me who have babies, and I just know, I hired someone the other day who was, in fact, like 6 months pregnant, and I'm like, okay, just calculate it in my math. Like, okay, so for these 3 months, she's going to be totally useless. Okay, that's going to be helpful because afterwards she's going to feel like, oh my God, I have to make up for my lost time, and she'll figure out how to be decisive and quick. And I know there's an extraordinary benefit to people being parents because they're very quick in their decision making and confident, I think. But I think that's part of it. Like, and for your clients, they're not in the business of hiring you. They just want their deal to be done well. So that's why I say for some people it is an issue, and it's fair for them to be like concerned about it because it might be a problem. I mean, not that you wouldn't make up for it, but I look at it in a very practical way.
So 8 years ago, I was 5 months pregnant with my first child, and I was up for the CEO of a very big national, I was just telling you this, national not-for-profit. You all know it, and I'm not going to say which one it is. And I went through the whole process. They offered me the job, started talking to brokers about housing in that other city. And I did what I thought at the time was the right thing to do, which is I called them and told them that I was 5 months pregnant. At which point the female chairwoman of that organization called and said, how many children do you plan on having? Do you have a support system in this city? Do you think this will change you? One illegal question after the next, which I answered. And the next day, the headhunter called me and said, it was a 30-second phone call, they've decided you're not the right style fit, you're out of the search. Two ending points to that. One, and I didn't sue because I believe in this organization, and I wouldn't want to hurt them. One is I actually think that I became a better CEO after having kids. And I think that I learned more about time, prioritization, nurturing people. I'm a better listener. I'm more efficient. I'm more effective. So shame on them. They made the wrong decision. And the second thing is the day that Marissa Mayer gives birth in October, every woman in this room should buy Yahoo stock. Because we need to change this. This has to start with us. So I am rooting for her. And I think we need to root for other women, and we need to be the last people who discriminate against each other and assume the worst of each other. And unfortunately, right now, we are the first. So whether or not you think Yahoo has a bright future, buy it.
Just as a statement.
Yep. So can I just take it back to the practicality? So basically, I'm at a stage now where I'm trying to figure out just how to get out of the house. So I just can't. I'm an hour late for everything. And my hair's always a mess, and I can't get dressed. And so, how do you start a Monday morning? Like, what are the sort of, practical steps that get you, out and into your office and to start your day? Because I need to know personally.
Well, it helps when the children can run and jump on you at 5 a.m. But I would say I just feel like starting Monday mornings, it's just an adrenaline-filled just rush for the entire week, starting literally with a stampede of children just coming in and jumping on you, checking email early, getting kids to school. I feel like it's just 30 minutes after 30 minutes of just adrenaline-filled meetings, conferences, phone calls, and then damage control when you get home, and it just keeps you going. But it is challenging. But I think once Sebastian is crawling and calling your name, he'll get you started much earlier.
And what about Anne-Marie? What about Mary Alice? What about travel? Because my fear, because in fact Sebastian's going to go on his first trip soon, is my fear is being that mother with the crying child that everybody hates on the plane.
We all have been there.
We've all been there. Pacifiers are okay. And you learn little tricks. And the great news is because of the internet, and there are so many communities out there, mommy communities and sites like Babbel, that you don't feel alone. And what I always think that is overlooked is the humor in all of it, because it is just... last week, New York Fashion Week, like I'm about to go sit front row at Carolina Herrera, and I'm scooping kitty litter while I'm like running with my son on the scooter to make kindergarten, and oops, I forgot his lunch, and kitty litter's all over my skirt, and so there's so much humor in it. But what happens is when you do some research and you listen and talk, like you said, to other women, you find shortcuts, you find things that work for you, and you share them, hopefully. A lot of women don't ask you, because that would mean that somehow they weren't doing it right. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think. There's been so many women that have been pregnant, so many friends, and I'm surprised that they never sit down with me and say, let's talk. Because you know what? I have like a list of 20 things that you need to get right now that will change your life, and we'll talk after.
Thank you.
It always comes up as a glass of wine.
And my big juggle, and I'm sure when you have older kids, is the thing that's hardest and most gut-wrenching for me is my son will come down and he'll slap down my computer, And that is, that hurts me to even say it now. And it's really, really difficult, because the great news about having successful companies and being able to actually spend more time with your kids, but because you have your BlackBerry or your iPhone, and that's your office, right? So I'm just so grateful that I can be with him, walk him to school, go volunteer at lunch, or go pick him up, and because I don't necessarily have to be at an office, but that's my office. But because of that, I'm always on it, and that's really hard. And and they don't understand. So what I've kind of learned to do is, really give moments where I put that away. I mean, it's hard. I'm like, I want to get it, but really focus on him at certain times, and then disappear when I need to, when he's around, to go look at that.
Yeah, I go to the bathroom an awful lot.
Exactly. That's a really good
Mommy
one.
has to pee again.
Yeah, that's so good, right?
Yeah.
On travel, a couple things on travel is, so I'm guessing Mary Alice also has this, like, a week when you're away. So, like, I'll have to be in, like, Switzerland for a week for Davos. And you definitely bring back presents, but the better thing than bringing back presents is ship them while you're there. So, like, FedEx a present home in the middle of the week, so they get something from you in the middle of the week. So
you're making the rest of us look bad.
Yeah.
It's not a good present, but it's like just good. Something. So that's one. That's one. And two is traditions, things that like you are definitely home for. So like I'm not particularly Jewy, but we now do Shabbat every Friday night. No, we have Shabbat every Friday night, but our Shabbat is, I love bread, so I can always do that. But like, so we eat the challah on Friday night, and when you pull your piece of challah, you say your favorite moment of the week. And so that's become like a touchstone for my kids every Friday night. My 5-year-old for 6 months said the same thing. He didn't quite get the understanding of like what a week is, but now he's there. So, but the traditions like that, where they know you're going to be there and you're going to be present, and then bribing them.
Also, big piece of advice to new moms is like, you know what? They don't even know you're gone. If you're going to go now. When they're young, do it. I remember I was doing the Oprah Winfrey show, and I flew out, and we got stranded out in LA, and I just had my son. And I was screaming, crying. I couldn't get out that night. I was like, tell Oprah to send a plane. This is ridiculous. I just had a baby. I was crying and screaming. my 4-week-old son had no clue. It's when they're older that it's much more difficult to travel, and they, it's harder for them to let you go. So you and your hubby go have some fun. Now when I go away,
the easiest
they're also easy to travel with at this age.
That's a vacation. Honestly, when you're on a business trip, like that's a vacation. Like work. Now I'm like, I would just try to get a flight back sometimes, a 24-hour thing to shoot in LA and then hop on a plane after my shoot and be up all night just so that I could. Now I'm like, no, I have a nice dinner. I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to witness every single moment. And the kids are okay. They'll be fine. And it's better because if you arrive refreshed and you've had a little space and a little time, it's much better than if you arrive like,
Was there something you wanted to add?
No, just do you know about the bassinet?
We clearly need to make a list of the secrets.
The secret. Like this is a great time to travel because in that first year they're the size that you can. So you don't bother paying for first class. Fly in the first row of economy, and those two little like holes in the wall. That's for this bassinet that they screw into the wall, and the baby sleeps the whole time. It's awesome. So like first year is the best time to travel, do long trips, and fly economy.
Yes.
Oddly, and it's a big secret. There you go. Our gift.
I wanted to open this out to questions from the audience. So let me know. Is there anyone who would like to ask anything?
How many of you are excited to have kids?
Yes.
My main question is, Hi, I'm Christina. I actually work with Nancy at Do Something, so I'm here supporting her. Woo. But my main question is about planning out families, because I know a lot of the time people are like, well, plan when you're going to have kids and make sure you do the right strategic move. Is that actually useful information, or should it just be when you pop them out, you pop them out?
I believe there's absolutely no right time to have a kid.
Yeah.
I, in fact, had my kid at probably the textbook definition of the wrong time, like 3 months after receiving financing for my, first company. And so just goes to show you. You'll be stronger for having done it. I just don't think there's any way to find the right answer to that.
And also, I think it's such an honor being a parent, and my son is the love of my life, and my life changed in such a big, beautiful way after I had my son. But guess what? Like, I wasn't sitting there like, I can never leave him. Like, women are taught to somehow feel guilty that they don't want to stay home. I wanted to do both, and to allow yourself to be there when you're there, but it's okay still to think big and just take your children along for the ride in a healthy way.
Yeah.
I changed it to my I'm in the audience. I'm like, no, it's just actually that I'm leaving right after to get on a plane to be home because my son, who's now in university, starts boot camp at 5 o'clock in the morning on the basketball team he plays for, and there's no way that I will not be there to make breakfast at 4:30 in the morning for him. So, I found myself sitting here thinking a gazillion questions. My son just turned 20 a few weeks ago, and so I'm listening to you.
You look good.
Thank you. Good genes. But I made every single, all of these things. I'm listening to this journey going, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I sent the gifts, not so much. Yeah, and I guess my question is, because I did realize, I think this is politically incorrect probably, but I'll just, for the sake of honesty, I don't think that you can have it all. I think that your kids do get to a certain point where it's them or your career. And I came out of the womb and the first words I said were not mommy and daddy. It was career, ambition, not husband, not mom. Didn't want it. I didn't want all of that. I wanted a career. And all of a sudden you have this thing, like Mary Alice said, the love of my life. And at a certain point when there's, like my son he used to slam down the computer. He used to kick makeup artists. He associated some weird transformation with his mommy to the makeup artist who was putting this stuff on her face, and then I looked different. So he would kick them on sets. So then I couldn't bring him on set anymore because he was physically abusing people by the time he was 5. So I just wonder if there's a point in which you will stop and say, I think I got to scale it back, because I did, and twice in my career. In 2000, I said to my agents, I got to focus on my son. I got to do it. I need a few years. And they thought that was career suicide, and I did it. And then in 04, I did a show with Sony. And then in about somewhere around 07 or 08, I did it again. And so I've been in this place where, and just to encourage you and also to ask you to think about it, and if you have any thoughts about it now, the offers still come. What I find is that as women, we're afraid to make the child the priority over the career. We're afraid, oh no, there's not that much time. Oh no, we won't get a break. I'm talent, so oh no, everyone else is 10. I don't care that I look 30. You know what I mean? They're young. And we put this pressure on ourselves. It's not real. Don't believe it. Everything you do that's correct and right in the order of the kingdom will be blessed. And having children is a blessing. We are women. We populate the planet. We teach these young boys to respect us. And we teach these young women to respect themselves, hopefully. And so I guess my question to you is, have you thought, hey, this child may get to a certain age and I may want to scale back. And can I do that and still love myself being mom first?
Instead give me your diamond ring right now, I'll scale back. I'll take that in, cash it, and we'll take a little break.
It did. You know what? It did help, because I was a single mom through my whole career, and I got married a couple of years ago.
And I say that with all respect, because I love every single thing you just said.
Trust me,
it's hard when you financially don't have certain choices. And the reality is most women out there have to work. We all have to work. And there's times I am in tears, probably like you have been, where I do not want to go, or why do I work 24/7? To be a successful parent and a successful entrepreneur, it is 24/7. So you give all, you give big, and I hope that my son, will see that, and I feel like I've worked really hard for him to understand why mommy works, and and it's not taking away from my time with him. But there's times where I definitely want to scale back. We'll see,
Yeah, no, trust me, I know. I mean, I moved into a smaller place at one point because I got married 2 years ago. I was a single mom the whole time. So until he was 18, there were times where lifestyle had to change.
Congratulations.
Someone once gave me a piece of advice when I first had my daughter, and I said, just to keep yourself honest, every once in a while, pick a day and just skip work and say to your kid, like, I'm playing hooky today, and you're playing hooky too, and we're just to make sure that you, in fact, can still do it, right? That you can, because I think what happens is you start to kind of feel, and some of it's just magical, like you believe the world's going to blow up, and in fact it doesn't blow up if you disappear for a day or for a week, and I do that with taking vacations. Like I think that's a problem of being an entrepreneur in general, but never mind being a working mom entrepreneur. It's very hard to convince yourself of the other track, that everything is going to be fine. So that was a critical point, I think, in me. And now I actually literally just was like, I'm taking my kids to school every day. I don't care what I'm missing. I don't care. And it was like, I was like, this is only an hour. Why did I think this was such a big deal for 10 years?
Mm-hmm. We're lucky now with what's happening time-wise that we actually can, I think, be more with our kids than our moms were if they were working, really.
So I'm with Mary Alice. I'm the breadwinner, so I don't have the choice. But even if I had it, I don't think I'd take it. And here's why. My mom never worked. My mom was homemaker, and she was miserable. And I have a limited relationship with her now. Sometimes it's good. She sort of, finally in her mind, I became an adult when I had kids, even though I had already found a dress for success and owned my own apartment and had done lots of things. In her mind, I finally sort of became an adult when I had children and she could relate to me. And my mom's so smart. She has 2 master's degrees. She could have run her family business, but my grandfather didn't offer it to her because she was a woman. And I think that I'm actually a much better role model and parent to my kids by being the breadwinner and by working. I make time for them, walking them to school or sending them things or having that Shabbat dinner. But I wouldn't take that choice even if it was available to me. And you know what? I don't regret that Monday morning is my favorite time of the week. I like working. And that fulfills me. And my kids will respect me that much more for being that role model.
Guilt-free is the only way to go.
Well, and I think, to your point, though, that I think over time we'll see as our kids get older, but you might have to reprioritize. I think you have to constantly trust your instincts. See, I think with Anne-Marie Slaughter, what she found as well is that as her children got older, she started seeing problems in them. They weren't really responding well at school, and she had to shift. I don't know if she wanted to, but I think to Mary Alice's point, I mean, you try and do the best you can. You're working 24/7. You'll have to reprioritize probably at some point. But I think the theme of what we're all saying is finding those pockets of quality time with your kids, pushing for more flexibility, trying to do the walks to school, trying to have the traditions at home. And I think just, pack in as much as you can until you can't. And then I think you just have to figure out, it sounds like, things shifted for you and you had to kind of work around it. And right. Yeah. And that's the whole thing is, coming together as women, supporting each other, I think pushing for flexibility, understanding what we're going through, relying on the kindness of strangers as new moms. It's amazing what you'll find when you ask for it and when you kind of raise your hand. And I think that, I feel like, is the theme of a lot of what we're saying today.
I've cultivated a mommy network, and a lot of them don't work. And, I've just told them my reality. In my kitchen, I'll serve you a glass of wine, let's talk, the kids are playing, this is my reality. And, it really has helped for them to see. And it does also help when I say, and here's a nice little red dress from Ann Taylor, or here's some Estee Lauder makeup. I'll do whatever I need to do. Yeah. But guess what? They're the ones that say, like, MA, we have a PTA meeting, or MA, tomorrow's off, did you hear? Or I feel like I have this incredible women, this community in Brooklyn that helps me. And, and you need help. Mm-hmm. Everyone does. We all do.
Yeah.
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 We have another question here.
Yeah, I was just wondering, in terms of how you talk to your kids about your work, that's something that I think about a lot, because I think that the way it's framed has a great deal to do with how they internalize that and how they think about it. And I just wondered if you had found, not to call it messaging, but if there's something that you felt like was effective in how you communicate to your kids about your work.
Well, I've always made a point not to make it a negative. Like, I feel like I hear parents go like, Mommy doesn't want to go to work either. Well, then they're thinking, well, why the hell are you then? Like, then they, so that if, but I think if you're saying, like, this is a really important part of my life, and you'll one day, hopefully you'll find something you're passionate about too. Now, get your shoes on and go to school. Yeah.
Willem he doesn't really understand. I haven't taken him into the fashion world so much, and then until he had a couple little girls over one day, and they went to Mommy's closet, and now he gives fashion tours in Mommy's closet. And
he's
now
an entrepreneur. He charges $30.
Right, exactly. But he doesn't really, I haven't actually was just thinking about that. It was time to bring him into my world a little bit more, which I've actually kept him away from. And he knows how passionate I am about it, but doesn't really know what Mommy's fashion work is. Have you taken the boys?
We have a little bit. I'm still working towards this nursery in our offices, but we take them a little bit. I think what's fun for us is that we run a parenting magazine, so our work informs our life, and our life informs our work. So it's a lot of fun talking about what they do, and we take them on the site. But I think to Carley's point, you have to have a positive kind of attitude about what you're doing, because I agree that I think that really influences, your children.
So we can all drop our kids off at your office when we're in a bind.
Yeah, exactly.
Focus group. We have scooters at the office for, like, Christina and for other people in the office. But my kids love coming to the office. They know I think that was a great answer. Be positive. First of all, if you're not positive about your job, why are you doing it anyway? Right. But yeah, I love what I do, clearly. And so my kids, they actually love coming to my office, maybe even a little bit too much. But they love coming there, and they know people's names, and they draw people pictures and walk around and, like, give pictures to people. They actually really love the water machine. They love bringing cups of water to people. So,
yeah. But I think to Mary Alice's point too, I think if we all go, we probably would work around the clock, and I think we do. We're slipping off to the bathroom, but I do think, I feel what you're saying when our kids are just like, please put down the phone or pushing down our computer. That is pretty heartbreaking, and I think that we owe it to them to find at least, some time to fully dedicate to them and focus on them, and obviously let them know that work is important to us, but they are too, and I think they deserve some uninterrupted time with us, which I'm always working towards.
I would actually recommend to the mothers in my office, like, do as best when you're with them, just be with them. Like, it's not that, unless you're waiting on one desperate email, but it's an addiction. It truly is an addiction. And you could check it at 10 o'clock at night and be just as ready for the next morning than checking it every 20 minutes in between.
And there's always
there's
the email
always,
you're waiting on, right? And there's always
Right.
like the phone call you have to get on. So you have to be
and so-
disciplined about
and
it.
because they really, and you can't, I'm always like, no, that was your friend emailing me about a play date. Like, I'm always like trying to explain away.
Right.
Here's another practical piece of advice. So on one hand, I think what we've said is if you're passionate about the work, include them, tell them. Here's the other thing. Conversely, if there's something that they are passionate about, throw yourself into that. So oddly, I am now doing mixed martial arts. Because my kids are into it. So at Tiger Schulman on 19th Street, they have mixed martial arts on a Saturday morning where there's a glass wall. And on one side are the parents, and on the other side are the kids. And my kids are into it, and my husband was doing it, and he was like, come on, you have to do it. The kids are into it. So I was like, okay. So we actually have a family signal. When you see anyone in the family who looks tired, you go like this. And we can see each other through the glass. And on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m., we all do mixed martial arts together. And I think that's about me saying to the kids, like, and I'm the only one without any tape on my belt. They all have progressed. Mommy has not progressed. It's a big joke in the family. Mommy's still a white belt, whatever.
I was just imagining myself and my son taking QuickBooks course together. Maybe we should.
I think also if you just give, it's just like if they know you're there and they have access to you. Every now and then I'll see the call come in and I just always answer. I step away. Hey, buddy, and just always probably like you have your he's 18 now or 20, right? It's when you don't respond, but when they know that they're your number one, and sometimes it's tough, but you always connect with them, even if you say, I can't talk to you right now, or mommy's in a really important meeting, and then I try to always follow up, but I always.
Really important is
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It really is. It makes them really confident, like he knows at this point in life.
Yeah.
And I've heard him telling people, I am the most important thing in my mom's life. I mean, he's 20, and I'm going home to be sure to make breakfast because you can't.
Can I? Were you offering to marry her before? Because otherwise, I'll marry her.
But the thing my husband fell in love with was and this thing that you guys have, it's so attractive about you. It's the most beautiful thing. And I remember my husband saying to me, you are such a mom. That is the biggest turn on. And so
I guess there's a new definition of mom now, though. That's what we're really all getting at, that like there's this new definition of mom.
Yeah.
And that mom doesn't have to be what we, right?
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of people that are thinking that old definition,
And I think, to Nancy's earlier point, I do think our lives are so unpredictable. I mean, as much as we try to leave the phone down, there's always going to be a meeting, a call, something come up. But I think if you do have those traditions, or they can look forward to something, because kids do look so forward to, I think, ongoing things that they can really rely on, like dinner as a family. Even if it's every Friday night and it's movie night, it's just, if you can really stick to those things, I think it's really important. Because then I think it helps the unpredictability of the rest of your life feel like you can manage it better.
What about, actually, I just wanted to go back to something Mary Alice said about sort of mothering networks, or sort of women's networks. So I've seen that there's sort of city babes and River City babes and Brooklyn babes. I don't know what they're all called, something mother babes. But I wondered if you were all sort of members of those sort of support networks for mothers.
I was never I created my own.
You created your own,
City
but I'm
Babe,
just curious.
They started calling me about birthday parties, and that was when I was out, if I was going to. But I also think, I've been a single mom, and I've been a mother that, William's dad and I broke up when he was like 1. So in dating the last 7 years, and it isn't until recently that I've been in a really serious relationship. So I actually maybe had it easier because I didn't have to worry about my husband. I didn't have that extra person. I mean, I don't know, but I definitely relied on so many. And maybe also in a way, a lot of those women helped me because they knew that, there wasn't someone helping me in any way other than just me and my little guy. And so I really felt this incredible community around me, but it wasn't like a formal, Mary Alice and Willem club.
Right. Did any of you join any networks of that? I mean, because I found that I think sort of pre-pregnancy when, friends who are mothers talked about, their children or any, to be honest, I would zone out. I just did. And then as soon as I got pregnant, I was fascinated. I only wanted to be friends with people who had kids or who were having kids. And, and suddenly that was all I wanted around me because I just was, I needed to have that sort of support around me. I wanted to hear what they had to say. I just felt comfortable around them. And also I could talk about what I was going through. So I was just curious as to, whether that becomes sort of important to you as a mother to have, like-minded.
Well, I know that it's that actual type of behavior or drive that actually drives my whole business. The not around weddings, of course, and the bums.com around people just who want to talk to the exact same person going through what they are. And I think you find that as a parent, your idea about what makes the perfect friend shifts. Like, they have to have kids because you just can't understand how to talk to people barely anymore who don't. And B, they have to be in LA so you can talk to them at midnight when your kids are in bed. The defining factors. And you find that you have to ask a lot more of people. And you have to be friends with people who don't say things. I swear to God, I there's a moment where I knock someone off my friend list. I called you 2 weeks ago, and I think well, you know what? Then you clearly can't be my friend anymore because you're lucky I called you back at all ever. Not because I didn't want to, but because you must not understand my life. And it's so I don't need a friend who's panic-inducing. Oh, shit, I didn't call them back. I know they get mad. And that's the one thing of working mothers. Wow, your leash is so long. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, so you have to make an internal network of people who are just very much like you are.
Yeah, totally. And I think as we talked earlier, I think, you'll be amazed at what you find when you raise your hand or just go out and look for it. It's out there. And I actually was invited to a class at the local YMCA. I didn't even, when I first had my son, it was such a kind of shocking experience. But thankfully I was taken to a local class, and it's amazing just how quickly you connect with people that just had children. And I think it was great to find people that had children within the same kind of time period I did. And I definitely think community is everything when you're going through that experience. And so I think seek and you shall find.
Okay. There's a question in the front.
Yeah, you guys all have a pretty idealized situation. For people in the audience that actually maybe they have to work 2 or 3 jobs, what is the advice that you can give to them? Because if you're not an entrepreneur, what would you tell the working mother that needs to make time for her children?
Well, don't underestimate. We definitely we work 2 or 3 jobs. Every single day we're all cultivating constantly, and we totally understand and get. No, but I'm talking about the mother that hates her job. That hates her job.
Well, and this is what I was.
Yeah. Okay.
This is what I was saying earlier. I do think the benefit we have is that we can find pockets of flexibility, and I think, as I was saying earlier with Emery Slaughter's piece, I do think we have to. This generation has to push for more flexibility in environments that I think aren't open to it, and I really think we have to do that collectively.
In the workforce, corporately.
When I ran Dress for Success, and some of you saw Joy earlier, I saw hundreds of thousands of women come through Dress for Success who were juggling multiple jobs, possibly multiple baby daddies, long commutes, and I never saw what the media would put out there as the welfare mom. I never met her. I don't know who the heck that woman is. They would have you believe that she's, African American, a certain age, blah, blah, blah. I never met her. I saw Russian immigrants. I saw Hispanic women. I saw a whole mixture of people. And what I never saw was anybody complain. And I learned more about juggling time. I learned more about being a working mother from the women who came through Dress for Success than even from any of my friends or any book or website or anything. They just do it. They don't complain. It's just this is what my life is, and so I sort of do it. So I don't know that anybody who knows me, Christina will tell you, I don't ever complain about lack of time or being too busy or being tired, because I think that would be the rich woman's luxury. And that's just a line that I've drawn in the sand. There is no such thing as me not having enough time, because I can have help from an assistant or a nanny or something like that. And if Adrienne Wallace can do it, one of my favorite former clients from Dress for Success, then I sure as heck can do it. So I do think it's important to remind us of class privilege, but it's also important to remind us of what that class privilege is. It's not just having help; it's the luxury of sort of that complaining. And we can do it. We can all do it. If Adrienne Wallace can do it, we can all do it.
I also think I've done a lot of work with women who in that situation. I just worked with a woman who has 3 older kids who juggled 5, 6 jobs constantly. It was the first time she had ever really gotten into fashion or wanted to look. She was a beautiful woman, and she never cared. And as women, you know, we do this because we love our kids so much, and we have this fierce desire to protect, take care of, and we will do whatever we have to do to survive. But you know what's so nice is that when we can look around and embrace each other, and because we're not going to give ourselves permission to take care of ourselves, we always take care of ourselves last. And so if we can reach out as women and be a stronger community and give each other permission, you know, what do you need today? How can I help you? You know, I'm in fashion, so I try to do that as much as I can with my girlfriends that are busting their butts, because I know that is something I can give to them. And I know that is something that you do, Nancy, all the time with Do Something. But a lot of women, you know, you close up when you're working that hard. And it's okay to ask your friend, can you do this for me? Can you help me? Or if you see someone that needs it, to give to them. And I think that's give what you can give, because that's really what it's all about.
But there's also, I think, to your point, I mean, there's a societal problem, though, because I think there's a lot of businesses that will count, you know, when your child's sick and you want to be at home with them, that's a vacation day. And I think it's a real problem. And there's people getting fired for, you know, choosing their kids or needing to be with their kids over being able to be at work. And I really think, you know, again, I think there needs to be a shift in the way businesses treat moms and allowing for more flexibility. And I think, to Carley's point, as long as you're getting your work done, I think women should have more flexibility. I think they should be able to go to their child's piano recital. I think they should be able to stay home if their child's sick. They can work from home.
And get each other's back. You know, there's been
times
where
it only
I'm
works
like,
in white collar, you know, jobs. It doesn't work when you're an hourly employee who is at a cashier, like, you know, that's the issue.
Conversations like this are great because at the top, you begin to affect change that trickles down. I was raised by a single mom. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. She raised us. She raised half my friends. She raised my father's kids from his other marriage. And when I first started in my career as a single mom, I was on welfare for 3 years. So don't get it twisted. I raised them by myself to 18. You can do it. They have the same problems. To be honest, I know it's easy to see just the privilege. They have the same problems.
The other thing,
Yeah, the flexibility they have more maybe, but they have the
neighbors.
same. You got it. They need help. You know what I mean? We got to use each other.
Yeah.
Well, I had my mom. My mom helped me. If I had to take a work trip, Mom, you're keeping him this week. You know, you got to use your friends. We have to use each other. And you have to, you know, if you hate your job, you just, life's not easy.
So one of ask that question more for the audience, because I think it was like people going out, you know, it's our privilege as entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We're in a situation, I'm in a situation where I work for myself from my home. That's not true of the poor woman that does have to do this crappy job as a cashier or wash somebody's office or that kind of job.
Yeah.
That's why I asked that.
Yeah.
So one of the big
Great
secrets
question.
in low-income communities is neighborhoods. I mean, what you would call like a friendship circle, whatever, but it's called your neighbor, and it's awesome. It's actually really hard when you pluck low-income women out of a neighborhood and have them like commute down to Solomon Smith Barney to work at a bank, because then they can't actually help in the neighborhood if they're not working in the neighborhood. And so that's another thing that I learned from clients from Dress for Success is actually which is weird in New York because you don't always know your neighbors. But if you're thinking about having kids, I do highly recommend, I already said look at the school, look at where you're living. And I don't just mean if it's a good school district, but like, is it a building where there are other kids in the building? Is it a street where there are other kids or other moms on the street who want to help out? So in our building, there's only one other family. There are 2 lesbians down the hall. And what's awesome is the lesbians have outdoor space and we have a man. So it all balances out. It's fantastic. When the lesbians have a mouse, they call us and my husband goes over there and kills the mouse. And when we need to put the kids like in an outdoor space that's like gated, we send them down the hall. It's awesome. But I would say like, look at who your neighbors are and think really about that, because it does take a village, and those are the closest ones to you, and you'll find yourself becoming friends and sharing. Okay, can you watch the kids while I run out to the grocery store? So and that's again not class-based at all.
And we need more women running companies.
Yeah, we do actually. I mean, we have to end, but I wanted to just bring up something that a panelist said at one of our earlier panels 2 years ago, which was Mary Callahan Erdos, who runs JP Morgan Asset Management, and she was saying that she had noticed that the women in the office who had kids who were going off to get their kids from school were pretending they were sick, or they were making up excuses to leave the office going to get the kids. And so what she started doing was she would go and do the school run, and she would, when she was leaving the office, she would announce very loudly, "I'm off to get the children," so that it made it acceptable in her office that, you know, it was okay to go and do that. And so it allowed these women, you know, that it gave them that permission to do that and not, you know, to not.
That's a great point. I mean, you need more women role models, I think, in these companies, which hopefully we are. And I think Sheryl Sandberg recently, I think, did something very similar, where she announced she was going home to have dinner with her children at 5:30 every night. But I think we need more role models like that, and to accomplish these things.
This has been great. I am armed with knowledge. Thank you very much to Alisa, to Mary Alice, to Carley, to Nancy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.